Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming. My name is Hollow, and today I want to talk to you about upcoming games that we as Monster Hunter fans should be excited for. After all, the Rise 3.0 update is on its way, and after that, most likely a lull on the future updates, our first period where we don't have a major update expected the following month. So we thought it would be a good idea to take a look at other games with monsters in it that you will fight and hunt that are upcoming with high potential. Here is my 5 Monster Hunter games to look forward to and what we know about them. First up then has to be the very interesting and unusual Biomutant. First revealed years ago back in 2018 via this pre-rendered cinematic showcase where we saw a strange and colourful world and this very interesting character, who upon touching this water begins to mutate and change. There's the name of the game. But then we had a look at this strange and beautiful world with what seems to be proper gameplay. As we explore the world as this character, by land, by water and by sky, we see strange technology like that walking hand or the mech suits. There's the characters you're going to meet and the fascinating combat. Overall, the trailer captured my interest, but I was unsure as well because I felt this strong sense of clunkiness, a bit of unfinished mechanics, concepts and design going on. So I wondered if they could polish this into something worth caring about, something worth being excited for. Cut to now in 2021 and we have some real answers to what this game actually is and lots of gameplay trailers. Biomutant is an open world post-apocalyptic kung fu fable. What a mouthful. Its world structure was heavily inspired by Breath of the Wild, while its gameplay was apparently inspired by games like Ratchet and Clank, Devil May Cry, and even the Batman Arkham games. What a strange combination. But when we look at the gameplay, it is now looking super smooth. The player is diving into a pack of enemies here, including that big brute fella, and just going to town, bouncing around the combat, using various gadgets and weapons constantly. Very interestingly, this sudden use of Super Wung Fu that activates and gives you a period where you can use 4 different Wung Fu based attacks. The world though is seemingly filled with more than just basic combat like this, where the monsters scale up. What even is that? It looks like a huge turtle monster thing that shoots spores at you or physically slaps or bites you. And you know what? We're not actually our own character here. We're in another mech thing, a squid submarine. There's this fight against what's called apparently Jumbo Puff while in that mecha suit, but also big fights where you're on the ground against whatever the hell this thing is, some fire-breathing monster. So as you can see, it's a diverse world filled with monsters that we can battle, which is what we're all about. We also have a character creator to make our own strange creature rather than be stuck to that original cinematic main character, with the ability to choose our own starting strengths and weaknesses. The game has lots of little details like being able to craft small things on top of our outfits or heavily mod our weapons with various qualities and upgrades to go with that. When it comes to the world and its characters, apparently there's a bunch of main tribes that have all mastered one specific combat style, and the tribes themselves are in conflict since different tribes are focused on the light and dark styles. While the light tribes want to save and heal the world, the dark tribes feel the world must be cleansed so it can restart again, and you're going to have to choose what side to join, which will then heavily affect the story and the ending you get. The mutant part of the game is to do with biomutations. Those are like physical style abilities you're able to unlock and use. They gave an example of using a mushroom to spawn under yourself for movement, or the psychic abilities like being able to float and fly, or use lightning powers, described as X-Men powers by the devs. So we've got a big world, main factions warring, a story that can go multiple ways, huge strange monsters to fight, magical powers, that really interesting character creator. There's just a lot of potential here. So I'm actually quite hopeful for the game. And you know what? It comes out super soon, the 25th of May. We're like a week away. The platforms seem to be PlayStation, Xbox and PC, and we're thinking about covering it here on the channel, so let us know if you'd like that. But alright then, let's move on to number 2 on this list. Horizon Forbidden West, aka Horizon Zero Dawn 2. This is the sequel to the well-respected original. Forbidden West is another PlayStation exclusive that's going to continue the story of Aloy in a world filled with incredible technology-based animals and monsters. It's set to follow on the events of the first game, heading to the west to explore that new region, meet new people, meet new enemies, and obviously those robotic monsters. What's kind of important for me with this one is how I actually haven't played the original properly myself. I only ever had small hands-on with it and kind of watched playthroughs or streams, never really finding myself fully gripped by it. I thought the setting was incredible, both the future and past colliding into one, as we're technically playing in the future and there's all this interesting technology going on, but civilization has kind of crumbled and reverted at the same time. The original was a big open world, a well-respected intense storyline, it had that strong leading character, and there was the fun technology-based animals to overcome or even control. But for me, I think the main problem was the gameplay loop. While the story did interest me and sure the monsters were cool, I just found the open world stuff very repetitive and kind of generic, which is kind of a huge part of the game. But I still feel like I can't ignore this series as a Monster Hunter fan, since it is right up this genre's alley. And with a sequel like this one, I can expect big improvements, maybe more variety in enemies, maybe a different take on the open world genre, a new interesting world to explore obviously, and that story. Here's what we do know so far though. We still don't have an exact window on when this is coming out. It's still planned sometime 2021. We do see in the trailer though the new regions of America, such as San Francisco. There's apparent familiar factions like the Silence that are going to be alongside other new tribes. Their area of play is said to be bigger than the original. The director said we'll be going from places like Utah all the way to the Pacific coast. The main story itself is set around the creepy Crimson Blight that's killing all life around it, messing with the weather, causing a permanent superstorm. Our goal then is to find a cure for the Blight and prevent its spread, which is a simple setup with good potential. So I have no real issue with the world and the characters. I think it's all going to be great. I just want to see some gameplay and see how they've refined and improved it. I think I need to give this sequel a fair go this time. It has a lot of potential to be brilliant. A lot of people love the original. We'll have to wait and see though, since I expect new information and hopefully a gameplay trailer to be coming very soon. Moving on to our third game then. It's time to talk literally Monster Hunter, since yes, we do have a new game in the Monster Hunter series coming out in the form of Monster Hunter Stories 2. Wings of Ruin is the sequel and follow-up to the original game with a lot of important updates and improvements. If you know about the original, you know that it was quite childish in its visual nature, which isn't exactly a bad thing, but it seems Capcom have wanted to turn that dial down a bit as they've aged up the characters and the story. But in Stories, we are playing as monster riders, which is much more familiar these days as we're doing all this wyvern riding in Rise. Basically, instead of slaying all the monsters, riders try to tame and protect the balance of nature and work with the monsters. So this once again makes me think, as Monster Hunters in the main series, we're actually the bad guys. Different to the main series though, is the much more dedicated JRPG style of play. It should remind you of Pokemon with the turn-based strategy combat, using monsters to fight with the various attacks and abilities of your choosing. Although the character is also directly involved in combat here, and it's all based around a 3-life system, so just like karting, on your third cart you're just done. Similar to Pokemon again though, we will work with a party of monsters we can swap between after we've literally stolen the eggs from monster nests and imprinted on the newborn monsters. Okay, maybe we're still the bad guys. Visually, it's looking brilliant though. You get to see the many weapons of Monster Hunter in action, the monsters themselves shown in a less limited way. It's just a really cool take on the Monster Hunter universe. In Wings of Ruin, the story is set around the player meeting a Wyverian who has a Rathalos egg. In this world, Rathalos are becoming rarer and rarer, and together you're basically going to try to save that species and find out why they're disappearing. It's a good setup in a bright and colourful version of the Monster Hunter universe. What's great about Stories is how it kind of fulfills the Monster Hunter story in a less generic way. Sure, it's not entirely original, but it's much more of a story-driven game than the main series by far. This one apparently has new weapons and more than likely a bigger monster roster and that new story as well. So I think many Monster Hunter universe fans should be excited for this game. We don't have that long to wait on this one either, since it's coming out on the 9th of July and it'll be on both Switch and PC as well, so more people will get a chance to play it. Our fourth game on this list is one I'm very excited for. That will be Scarlet Nexus, the newest third-person action RPG from the same people who brought us Code Vein, another game I absolutely loved and covered here on the channel at the time. Instantly, this should be familiar due to its anime visuals and companion-based gameplay. Clearly, this is a fresh and updated version of what they've learned from their time working on Code Vein, and that really excites me because I really like Code Vein. This one is set in a future futuristic Japan under the apparent genre of brain punk, according to the devs anyway. But it looks incredible, mechanically and visually. In combat, we're going to be using a mix of melee weapons and telekinetic powers, which let us manipulate both our weapons and the environment around us. We can throw objects at enemies or create moving platforms for transport, but there's a lot of potential with that concept, so you got to wonder how far are they going to let us go with that. Of course, we can also use standard direct melee attacks for different combos, and it'll likely be a big part of the gameplay to mix and match your physical combat with your mental abilities. Alongside, as I mentioned, a companion who no doubt will play a big role in the gameplay if we look at Code Vein. As far as the RPG element goes, Code Vein had tons of playstyles, all tied to the code system, swapping from heavy slow weapons to light and agile ones at will, all coming with their own blood magic and abilities. So in Scarlet Nexus, we should expect similar. Here we're going to be able to level up skills on a brain map, aka a skill tree. So yeah, I'm expecting a variety of builds to play. It's all set in an alternative future after humanity has created technology that allows humans essentially superhuman power. But in doing so, they drew the attention of what sounds like aliens called the Others, which are essentially horrifying monsters who just so happen to love the taste of human brain. We're playing as part of a military force who defend the region from the Others and their attacks. But I think this is really good. It lets the devs create anything they can think of when it comes to these strange creatures, and we can see that in their designs so far. I can imagine it's only going to get weirder and weirder as we face stronger versions. But from the gameplay, it just looks like a clear improvement from Code Vein, which did have tons of awesome and weird boss fights and monsters to engage with, but here the psychic abilities look solid, the colors really pop, the many ways the abilities or attacks have this neon glow trail as they move, it just feels really fresh. And while the companion system was never my thing, I definitely found it less annoying or invasive than expected in Code Vein, so I kind of have high hopes for it. We have good news on this one as well. Firstly, that it's coming soon, set to release June 25th on PlayStation, Xbox and PC. But even better, we can try the game even sooner, as a demo is apparently coming May 21st, just like Code Vein had one. However, it seems that demo is only going to be on Xbox until May 28th, when PlayStation then gets the demo. But either way, it should be a great way to try the game and see how the combat feels. Hopefully there's a PC version of the demo at some point. I've got high hopes for Scarlet Nexus, and hopefully I'll get to make lots of videos about it on the channel soon. Alright, moving on to our last game on this list, which was a very unexpected reveal in 2020. Somehow, this small indie dev team managed to capture our interest to a major degree. The trailers have millions of views. Black Myth Wukong appears to be a fascinating take on a Souls-like style of action combat and RPG game. Set in that classic story loved in the East, The Journey to the West. If you just stop and take a look at the gameplay, it should instantly remind you of the third-person action combat of the Souls series, but clearly has its own unique spin on it. Your character, Wukong, has the incredible ability to transform into hundreds of different forms, which will completely change how you approach the gameplay. Alongside a massive roster of magical spells you can use, the devs claim we're going to have up to 72, which is crazy. There's also lots of stances that will alter our base combat ability with combos and attacks, and of course you'll be evading, blocking, and parrying defensively. But why is this game in a monster hunting list? Well, some of the enemies in this game are incredible from what we've seen in just 2 trailers. There's tigers, foxes, monkeys, big packs of enemies, or huge bosses to fight. Interestingly, we see elements of stealth in the game too, which I find unexpected. In this trailer, Wukong transforms into a bug to fly through an area of enemies and then listen in on their conversations, sneaking past what would have been otherwise a lot of fighting until eventually he was detected by a more powerful foe. After defeating that guy, Wukong learns and claims the ability to transform into him, who just so happens to have fire ability, which works perfectly against the boss the player then encounters shortly after. So we've got big incredible creatures to fight, insane magical abilities, elemental combat, stance switching, form transformation, and a very interesting world to do it all in. So I think it should be clear now why this indie team has managed to capture our interest so well. I mean, the story of Wukong is hugely popular and for good reason. It's the simple concept that in this world, transformation powers are actually quite common and seen as more low-class against magic. Wukong kind of goes against that by putting all of his power into transformation, so much that he can completely change his size, shape, and fighting style and abilities into hundreds of forms, taking something that's looked down upon by the society of this world and showing how much it can shine. But we're probably gonna have to wait a while to get our hands on this, or even learn more. Apparently it's aimed to be released by 2023, and the devs say that though they're excited about the game and see high potential for it to be even a game series, they're not gonna release it until it's ready, which is both great to hear and sad because obviously we have to wait. Either way, it's planned to come to mainstream consoles and PC, and definitely looks to be a bold take on the Souls-inspired style of game, which is what I'm all about. And I know this one isn't coming out this year, but I really wanted to talk about it as a monster fighting style of game with a lot of promise, and one that we're going to learn more about this year, I'm sure. But there you have it, 5 different monster hunting style games to consider, and ones that I'm very interested in or hopeful for. I also wanted to ask in this video if you guys know of any other monster hunting games that are on the horizon, maybe not included in this list, maybe something I forgot about. But either way, we're soon going to have our hands on Biomutant, Stories, and Scarlet Nexus, so hopefully they're all good. I'm very happy though. Refreshing myself on these games for this video has got me just hyped for this year. If the video was interesting or useful to you, make sure to drop a like on it if you think I should make more like this in the future. Until next time then, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.